Hello, everybody. Welcome to the HR breakout room. I'm glad it's working. Let me rename myself because I'm not Annie. I'm borrowing her Zoom.
Hi.
Hey.
Oh, you've already got the recording going. Cool. That was the thing I was supposed to remind you to do.
I figured out how to set it up automatically. And can you see these slides, everybody? Yeah?
Yes, I can.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, we'll just give folks a minute to find their way over here.
And I'll monitor the chat for questions. I'm sure then.
That's awesome, because while I'm projecting these slides, I cannot see the chat, apparently.
Okay, we're seeing this in presenter mode. So like we see that, I mean, not that it matters, like, but we see like slide.
Yep, certainly.
I don't know another way to do it.
Okay, sounds good.
Can folks who are here please mute themselves?
All right, what do you see now? Did I fix it?
Same thing. It's fine. It's fine.
I thought I could fix it.
I think it's fine.
Are you gonna revoke my top level Zoom guru status? I never claimed it from the start, but.
Hey, maybe if you click the display settings on the top left. There you go.
Oh, cool. Now I can see it. Nailed it. All right, well, I want to make sure Kristen's on. Did you make it over?
Hi there, I'm here.
Okay, all right, perfect. Well, I know we're running a little behind, so the plan is for these breakouts to go till 1:30. I've got a little wiggle room, so we'll, between Kristen and I, we'll try and do about 22 minutes of content, but I can stay on the line for a little while after that for questions. Kel has kindly offered to moderate chat, and so while I'm sharing my screen, I can't really see the chat, and it's hard to do this kind of a session without knowing exactly who's on the line, and we don't really have time to have everyone introduce themselves. So Kristen and I are just going to do our thing, talk through some things, but just put your questions in chat, and then there's a lot of different ways that I think we can follow up, because HR and benefits and these things are very specific to each person's situation, and Kristen and I were happy to kind of be a voice to things that people are thinking of, but we certainly can't get into like specific scenarios with this amount of time. So we're just going to offer some thoughts, and then would really, really like to be able to connect with people, individually to follow up and make sure that you get the support you need. So the last slide has our contact information, and Kel will help us capture things. So these first two slides we already went over in the breakout, and they'll be made available as part of these recordings, and we'll get them to folks. So Kristen's going to kick off just going a little bit more into detail on some things related to benefits right now.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kristen Cooper. My pronouns are she and her. Just a couple things I wanted to touch on. I'm sure you probably are getting inundated with emails from all directions, but just some key things to kind of put out there for your employees right now. Tapping into EAP services. If you're a small business, you might not be aware if you have an EAP. It's one of the most under-promoted benefits out there probably, but it's often built into some of the plans that you might be already offering. So for instance, if you're a small business and you have coverage with Regents, they have an EAP that's just built into their medical programs that's available for all of your employees and their household members to use. Some other programs that often have it baked in are things like your life and disability coverages. you might have it in there and it might just be sitting there behind the scenes without knowing that it's there and available. So just a reminder to kind of take a peek, make sure you have those offerings and let your people know about it. If you don't offer something like that, it's really easy to add at any time throughout the year on a standalone basis. There's a lot of local EAP providers that are out there that do a really great job. And once again, it's a super quick setup process and your employees can have access to that feature pretty quickly. The other thing I just wanted to remind people about is letting your employees know that if they're on maintenance medications, shifting over to the mail order service through their insurer is a really great way to, one, help them stay at home and stay safer and keep everyone safe. And two, it will help to avoid a disruption or a delay in continuing their course of drug therapy. So some good reminders there. Also, a lot of the insurance carriers are expanding their telehealth capabilities right now. So they're doing some additional partnerships and contracting to add more providers to what is available on a telehealth basis, including behavioral health providers and that sort of thing. So what we're hearing from everyone is, when people need care, to reach out to their primary care provider first. And if they have virtual care available, great. If they don't, and you do feel like you need to see somebody, you can also call customer service for your insurance plan, and they can help direct you to some other virtual care options. And that helps, kind of release the physical burden on providers' offices, urgent care centers, and so forth. And then there are some great companies out there. I know Honeybee is a local B Corp. They are offering some free access to their financial assistance platform. You'll see information about that in the list of resources available under the Be Local page that we just talked about a little bit ago. So there's a lot of different options out there as well that can come in handy right now during this time. Next slide, Kate. There we go. Some other things that come up, and hopefully you're not really facing this. It's been amazing to see the B Corp community work so hard to take care of your employees and, really, keep people working, keeping people cared for. But in the event that, something comes up where you are forced to evaluate your options and reduce staff, one of the things, I just got this bulletin this morning from a law firm, so I've just digested it myself, so bear with me. But one of the big things is the difference between furlough versus a layoff. So, we're talking to a lot of companies right now that are saying, well, what if we have to go through a layoff, but we're going to continue to pay for benefits. We're talking about what that really means in terms of not having people actively at work and meeting their required hours and needing to, go through some similar processes for COBRA or state continuation, even if you're paying for the coverage. But the difference there is if you're able to take people on a furlough basis, they're able to stay actively enrolled in your benefit program. So kind of a similar concept, but it's an alternative to a layoff. You're able to save money by reducing your payroll costs, but employees are still able to have that active coverage. And then they're also likely to be able to still file for unemployment as well. Next slide. So once again, if you are going through a proper layoff, you shouldn't be keeping employees on your plan under active status, especially if you happen to be an employer out there that offers a self-insured program, which I will not go into the weeds on that right now. That's definitely a sidebar conversation. But, you want to make sure that you do follow the process. You switch them over. If you have fewer than 20 employees, then they're subject to state continuation. If you have 20 plus, that's where COBRA is going to come into play, but you want to make sure and follow those internal protocols to have them enrolled as they should be, because down the road, if it turns out that you had somebody on the plan that wasn't truly eligible, you get into all kinds of claims issues and things like that at a later date, which, again, I will spare you the details there, but these are just things to be considering as you're kind of going through this process. And then typically, most insurance contracts, you will of course want to check your own, but most state that if an employee returns to full-time work within 3 months, then they get reinstated back into coverage without having to refulfill any new waiting periods. I'm expecting that there'll be further guidance on this for that duration as a result of COVID-19. Everything's kind of changing on a daily basis right now, so we're just working through it as fast as we can. The other reminder is if you are in a situation where you are needing to take employees off of active benefits, just a reminder about things like their unspent flex accounts, and also making sure you communicate to them their conversion and portability rights for life insurance, which often gets forgotten because it doesn't always click in the COBRA process, but it's typically your responsibility to make sure employees know about that, and it's something that they need to take action on within 30 days of losing their benefits eligibility. So some reminders there. If you have any specific questions on any of these items, just shoot me a note and we can chat about that in more particular details offline as well. And then one last reminder, disability claims. So again, this is going to be very contract specific for you, but in general, what we're seeing from the disability insurers is that, you know, if your employee is home under quarantine, but they're not ill, then they're not meeting the definition of disability for a claim. If they do become ill with COVID or anything else, then the claim will be treated and evaluated like any other illness and processed accordingly. One of the things that comes into play a lot with disability is the actively at work provision. So meaning your employees need to be actively working. And in this particular case, for most of the carriers, they are saying if an employee is affected by COVID, such as being quarantined, having been temporarily laid off, under furlough, or home because they have to take care of children or family members, and they're technically, not in that eligibility category, the disability carriers are saying that they're still going to treat them as actively at work. So if they do end up, as a result of staying home to care for family members, if they do end up becoming ill and then needing to file a claim, they're still considered an actively eligible employee to do that. So again, very contract specific, but this is kind of a general thing that we're seeing across the board with the carriers. So just something to think about and address with your benefits person. If you don't have a benefits person or you have any questions, again, you can shoot me a note. I'm happy to share any resources that I have available on policies or questions to be asking through this process. There's also just one last thing I'd comment on. There are a lot of wellness programs and wellness consultants available out there. So if you are trying to figure out how to pull in more resources to help your employees stay sane, stay healthy during this time, there's a lot of people out there. I mean, there's so many, I won't go into all of it now, but we'll share some resources after this call. And if you have any specific questions about where to start, where to kind of start the process, what to be thinking about, or what kind of wellness solutions are out there to pull into place, then just give us a shout and we'll share everything we know. That's it for my stuff right now. Again, very high level. It's hard to address all the individual specifics that go along with this, but considerations as you move forward.
Kristen, can you share your email in the chat for folks?
Yes, I will
that's
do my
okay.
best.
It'll be on the last slide too, so we'll project that to everyone in a sec.
It's casey@blackbirdbenefits.org. So I will chat in a moment.
So I'm going to keep going because, again, the goal for today, I mean, many B Corps are not large enough to have a full-time HR person. And we also have nonprofits and other types of organizations on this particular call. So again, we just wanted to tease some things, and those of us who are working on these things all day, every day, from the minute we wake up to the minute we go to sleep right now, it's still confusing and the information is still changing every single minute, let alone state by state for those of us working in multiple states. So please, if you don't have an HR person or you're in an organizational model where HR is sort of shared between managers and maybe an operations role, definitely reach out for help, as I'm sure you already are. And those of us who are in these roles can try to connect you to expertise, whether that's us just sharing our materials or, as Kristen mentioned, there are folks right now who are certified B Corps or values line organizations who provide these services normally and are going above and beyond to be extra generous to folks right now. clients and non-clients alike. So I'm going to click through a few more slides and then we'll try to pause for some questions. I'm going to go pretty fast. I'm a fast talker normally. And again, these are the world's worst design slides. But the things I just wanted to share that I've been really passionate about this past month is succession planning is one thing. So everyone right now is scrambling, pulled in a million directions, focused on staff well-being, customer service, financial viability of our organizations. And in the midst of all that, we're all working so hard right now. And it's even hard to slow down enough to say what happens when one of us does get sick or needs to be out of not working for caretaking reasons. And so we've developed a pretty good template at Beneficial State that we already had, but we really sort of underutilized it in terms of mapping out key organizational functions, who's cross-trained in those, and who do we need to get trained, et cetera. So I'm happy to share this template with any organization, but we're all trying to take at least just half an hour this week to just like get this information captured so that if one of us, and especially in smaller organizations like at Beneficial State Foundation, we have 32 staff, there's really not much depth. So each of us owns a function and there isn't anyone else on that team. We're a bunch of departments of one, as I'm sure many of you are. So I would really suggest that you start spending more time on this kind of work if you aren't already, and I'm happy to share this template. Internal communications, everyone in this community has such big hearts, and I think this is already front and center to what we do as organizations, whether you're a B Corp or a nonprofit, but just things that we're thinking about at Beneficial State is really trying to pull together a master resource portal, whether that's an intranet or one particular folder on Google, whatever it is that you use, to try to make a central place for information, because I'm sure you're all experiencing it's information overload right now, and policy documents and updates are changing by the day. I've never seen anything like this. And so I think organizations are really struggling to keep track of what's the most accurate information, what do staff need to know, and what's changed day to day. And so many folks are probably focused on just taking care of staff, problem solving, communicating with clients, but the best you can. So we've, again, sort of like just pulled people into internal communications who are normally doing other things and just trying to get organized. And it's been working hard. So I'm sure that many of you are also dealing with that. Also really thinking about the concept of wellness checks with staff. So people are moving fast. Again, I think everyone's doing an okay job. I'm sure everyone the best you can to like stop and see how people are doing in the midst of problem solving. But I think it's particularly important now to have managers or HR designated folks, if possible, really set aside the time specifically for wellness checks. And by that, it can mean a range of things, but, people really need to know that you're thinking about them and caring about them before you're also asking them to, go above and beyond and kind of deal with the situation right now. And this for us also, again, this, this may be, triggering to some folks on the call, but we're also particularly needing to be aware of other personal safety issues and things that may be going on for folks right now, particularly with a rapid shift to remote work. So there may be reasons, personal safety reasons, domestic abuse, other things why working from home isn't an option for folks. And if we're moving so fast that we don't take time to individually and confidentially check in with folks, what else is going on in their life, that's an issue. So just if there's a way that you can work that into what you're doing right now, I really recommend it. And then I've just been using this mantra. Again, I know all of you are at organizations of different size. So this, if you're on a really small team, you might just laugh at this, but Beneficial State Bank has 225 employees. Our foundation has 32 employees. I feel really close connections and friendships with many of those folks. And I still, there's people in their family and chosen family, I just don't know their names. I know Jessica has 3 kids, but I don't know their name, so I think we're just in the midst of, again, 14 hours a day of insane business continuity planning. We're also trying to slow down enough to make sure we know the names of people's dogs and pets and moms, and just so we can ask after them, stuff like that. And then how else are you making space for people to name what they're feeling and observing, and especially in regards to social justice. So I think that everything that Alonda shared was really, really smart. We're doing a lot on our Slack space right now. So however you do this, just make sure that in whatever way possible in the midst of intense operational planning that you're making those spaces for conversations about those most impacted. And then again, this is a hard thing for me to talk about right now because I just don't know where each of you is in terms of like, if you're worried that you're about your business surviving, this isn't the right topic for you. But, you know, even though we're really struggling with a lot of operational things at the bank right now, we're also trying to pause and see how else we can take our values and express them right now.